Okay, welcome to tutorial on Simple Mind. Simple Mind is a new concept, not so new actually, but it's mind mapping. It's making visual bubbles to concepts to show how they're all connected and related. Let me pull up there's two so far that I have here, and these are for Synoptic Gospels. Let me show you how this works. Okay, basically, there's an idea, there's a theory that says that the Hebrew language was dead in the time of Jesus, and that Jesus didn't speak Hebrew, he spoke Aramaic. Now, I disagree with that theory, but I want you to see the history of where it began, and when you see that, you can see why it's a flawed theory. I also want you to be able to see chronologically how the idea developed over the centuries. So mind mapping helps me take an idea like this beginning one and show you all the connecting thoughts. And as time progresses, like for instance up here we're in the 16th century. But then a little bit further now we go into the 17th century. And then into here we're in the 18th century. And then the 19th century, and of course down to the 20th century. And we're in the 21st, and this concept is really more our 21st century lecture on it. So how does it work? A couple of things. Well, you're obviously not designing these. I'll let you play with it and make your own. But if you each of these bubbles can have text embedded in it. It doesn't mean that it's there. But what you do is you bring the cursor over the bubble. If there's text, it will pop up in this side window. Now what I've found is that this tends to disappear or fade away after a short period of time. So I could be into the middle of reading this and then it fades out like that. That's a problem. So what I want to do is zoom in here. When you click on a bubble, simply click on it, and there's a little circle called a T, and you click on that, and all of the notes right here that are below are there. Now, a second way of looking at this is what's called the toggle viewer, or the toggle inspector. Up in the view, you can click on toggle inspector and make it appear and disappear. And so I usually keep this open along with the visual spot. Now you can expand and contract these windows just like anything else, in any other kind of product. This is over here. It's mind map, and I don't know how to make this disappear, so I usually just kind of bring it over. But these are your docs. What files you have. So anyway, let's move that out of the way. Now, if I want to zoom in or zoom out on something, you have a couple of options. Up here in Zoom, it gives you the command, zoom in, zoom out. Now for a Mac, I hold the command key and I hit the positive, or I hold the command key and I hit the negative, and that makes me zoom out. Okay, so I can also pinch in and pinch out on a subject to do the same thing. So let me just bring this in small so you can see just how large this topic is. There it is. I'm actually zoomed in as far as we can go, so it's right from there to there. So this is a pretty extensive topic. So what I do is I start at the beginning, obviously, and let me just kind of center this. And now here I'm on the first bubble, so I click on that. Now fortunately it's appearing in there, and so I could either do it with going over there, but that'll go off on me, so I have the two choices, the toggle inspector, or I click on it and I click this circle T, and that opens it up. So I go to the next topic, and normally it appears naturally right here in the toggle inspector. It'll usually always pull it up in the yellow box when you have the cursor over it. I find sometimes when it doesn't appear in the toggle inspector, all I need to do is go click on the bubble, click on the T, and it shows it there, but it also makes it appear in the toggle inspector. So pictures that are embedded in here. All you really want to do with pictures, don't double click on it or it'll ask you if you want to replace it. But what you do is if you click once on it, there's an arrow on the lower right corner, and that just zooms in to give you a closer look at it. So in simple, you just start at the beginning, read everything that's there, and continue. What I recommend you do, what I'd like for you to do, is write a summary of each section as you go. So obviously this is an introduction to it, but here the Hebrew Aramaic shares an alphabet. I give a little bit of information there, but you could just say, hey, this article is about the exclusive Aramaic model. First, it's important to know that Hebrew and Aramaic share very similar alphabets. Now, in the 16th century, we have a guy named Johann Albrecht Widmanstadt, and so he writes an article titled the Syriac language, the vernacular of Jesus sanctified through his divine mouth, called Hebrew by John the Evangelist. So he writes this article. When he writes this article, there are three presuppositions that result from it. Scholars instantly assume that Syriac language is the Aramaic of Jesus' day. 2, that the equation of Syro-Aramaic language is the vernacular of Jesus. In other words, that the Syriac language is what Jesus is Aramaic. It's what Jesus spoke. And every time you see the word Hebrew in the Gospels, it doesn't mean Hebrew. It actually means Aramaic. Now, that whole theory is wrong, and why it's wrong is broken down in each of the steps here. And what we do is we find that the theory takes root and it goes viral, and so now you've got guys beginning to write on it. When it hits the 17th century, you have Martin Luther, John Calvin, and Richard Simmons, not to be confused, of course, with the physical fitness guru Richard Simmons. But under each of these things, click on something, click on the T, make sure that there's no notes there, and once you get to it, read the notes, read what it says. All right, so here, look at this. Martin Luther actually believed in the importance of the Hebrew language. And in one of his works here, which is a German work, he compared a Hebrew phrase in Daniel to understand a Greek in Luke 1:28, and he believes the angel actually spoke Hebrew. Okay, so I can see from here that Martin Luther thought that Hebrew was alive and well in the time of Jesus, and he sees the value of it as a background behind Luke. So much so that it even says the angel spoke in Hebrew. Well, John Calvin, on the other hand, he had a different belief. He said when the evangelist uses the word Hebrew, he's referring to the Chaldaic or Syriac language, and we give a couple of citations of where Calvin says that. So obviously here I know Calvin and Luther have a different opinion on this. Now as I go into the 18th century, all these different names begin to pop up, and what they contribute and what they have to say is all put in there. But I'm following this both chronologically and visually. And so again, too, if you want to expand a picture out, just click on it once, hit the arrow, and that will show you the bigger version of the picture. Although some of them they're scary looking and you don't want to do that. But click on something just to be sure, click the T, that expands it. One last feature I want to bring to your attention is the arrow. When you click on something, there's a little arrow there, and you could accidentally hit that and be like, oh my gosh, what just happened? But this just expands and contracts all the stuff that's underneath it. So this is helpful with other types of lectures. Like for instance here, if I were to, boom, do that. Well, there's a presupposition that resulted from his view. Expand it out, 1, 2, 3, there it is. Now, this feature could come in helpful in, for instance, another article that you'll be engaging here, where I give a rebuttal to a particular theory by a guy by the name of Fitzmyer. The details of this aren't important, but the feature is what I'm trying to show you. Well, some of us, if we see all of that information, it freaks us out. So put it into bite-sized pieces. Instead of me looking at the rebuttal like that, let me just cover what the guy has while he's talking about it. See what that is. Okay, so what's the rebuttal? Boom. That freaks me out. All right, well, find stuff that has things underneath it. Now, Acts doesn't have any expansion to it, but the Septuagint does. So what if I shrink that? What if I go to the Jewish pseudepigrapha and shrink that, and Josephus, and I shrink his opinion, and Philo, and I shrink him, and all right, now this is a little bit more manageable. So I expand these when I come to them. Boom. Each of these, I look at the notes. The picture's there for me to look at, but I don't have to if I don't want to. If I want to zoom in a little bit quicker, I can do that. If I want to zoom out a little bit more, I can do that. But the whole idea of this design is to keep it moving. One last thing to note, it depends if you have a Mac or a PC version, or if it's you get the free version for this, obviously. But there is a little checkbox over here, and so in the toggle inspector, when you have it open like this, if you click on the checkbox, it gives these icons you can add. You obviously will never need that. So you just come back here to the notepad. So that's Simple Mind. Hope that makes it a little bit more simple. And the great thing of this is that it's probably better for you to do Simple Mind just one section at a time. Don't look at the next stuff until it's time to look at it. And if it freaks you out, shrink it. Just shrink it. Boom. And just open it as you go. But you can do it. Take it in bite-sized pieces. Thanks so much, guys.